have just launched the new Aeroad. A bike with speed written into its DNA. This is the 4th generation, a bike which originally started winning races some 15 years ago, and the outgoing model has been a total boss in the pro ranks. So what have Canyon done to try to improve it? From video calls I've had with Canyon engineers, the big take-home point for me was that this new bike has been 100% designed with pro riders. And long before there was a new bike to even ride, designers were hard at work asking pro riders and pro mechanics what it is they actually wanted. The release of this new bike is a big deal, so much so that Canyon have invited me over to their HQ in Koblenz, Germany. Just me and my cycling kit. Because waiting for me the other side is the brand new bike, in my size, in race trim, ready to roll. And when I get the other side, I've got a special edition Canyon taxi to pick me up. Before we get down to business on the latest bike, we need to acknowledge the history and evolution of the Aeroad, a bike which has been at the sharp end of races for some 20 years. First released back in 2010, the Generation 1 Aeroad was an alternative to Canyon's lightweight all-rounder, the Ultimate. 2014 saw the second generation of the bike launch at the Tour de France, and you had the likes of Alexander Kristoff and Marcel Kittel racing this bike, but the Ultimate was still regularly used by riders like Nairo Quintana and Alejandro Valverde. In 2016, disc brakes made their way onto the bike, and then 4 years later, the third generation Aeroad was launched, used almost exclusively by Canyon-sponsored teams. We had the likes of Mathieu van der Poel, Jasper Philipsen, and Annemiek van Vleuten being just some of the big names racking up numerous victories using this bike. So once you've created one of the most winningest bikes of the modern era, how do you go about improving it?
Well, what we did, we went to our biggest asset, which are the pro teams, the World Tour teams, our athletes, their technical staff, their mechanics, and there's enough ideas and needs there, which they're constantly thinking about improvements and other requests that they might have.
So if this bike has been developed alongside pro athletes, what is it that they've actually asked for?
So current Aeroad is the fastest bike in the peloton, and they wanted to keep that advantage that they obviously have with that. They wanted a lighter bike, quite a significant amount lighter, which is real difficult, which we tackled in a creative way, I would say. So they wanted a bike that is as stiff, that is a little faster, a lot lighter, and just all-out reliable and easy to use.
Okay, so with all of these requests that you've got from pro athletes and mechanics, was there anything that you just said, no, we can't do that?
Well, the amount of weight reduction they wanted. If it were up to them, we'd build a 6-kilo Aero bike, which you can go crazy light in terms of what you are able to achieve with frame set weights, but there's a threshold of where responsibility meets ambition, I want to say. And so there's only so much we can do in terms of weight reduction that we are happy to deliver to our pros.
Okay, fair enough. And then overall, what's the end goal for the new Aeroad?
Well, the end goal for the new Aeroad is be the fastest bike in the peloton, be a simple choice even if you go into the mountains, and make life for the team and the mechanics as easy as possible.
So what have Canyon actually done to achieve these goals? Well, the seat post clamp has been moved higher up the bike to increase the feedback going to the rider, something directly requested by Mathieu van der Poel. And then the rear end tube profiles have been shortened to try and add some level of compliance back into the bike. The down tube, the head tube and the fork blades have been made narrower and longer in order to improve aerodynamics. And then finally, the top tube has been made even thicker to increase stiffness and make the handling more responsive. Clearly, there's some kind of balancing act going on here. So when you're designing a bike, it's all about trying to strike a balance between deciding what areas to make lightweight, stronger, more aero. How on earth do you decide what to focus on and what to prioritize?
Lots boils down to experience. We are, it's not only I've worked on the frame, it's numerous people. It's a big team that we have. We have our aerodynamicist, the guy that runs the wind tunnel, the people that do simulations, the engineers that worked on the old frame, or on the current one. So it's you know where you start, and then you do a lot of CFD simulation for determining where to work on your aero, and it becomes quite clear where you have to work, which is up front on the bike.
Okay.
You lose some in the rear, you gain a lot in the front. In terms of stiffness, you've not been building bikes since yesterday, so it's we know where to work on. And then in terms of like robustness, we have our data from the test lab, from the field. We go to the races, we visit the pros, we know where frames tend to have weak points. So you bring it all together basically.
So if you have set out creating a performance bike, it's supposed to be the fastest in the peloton, does that mean there's now been sacrifices made in terms of usability for everyday people or pro mechanics?
Oh, absolutely not. Because, yes, it's the fastest bike in the peloton, which is the nice claim, the big headline. But then also, we didn't only work with the athletes and the performance staff. We also worked with the technical staff, the mechanics, and they demanded a robust bike, which is just really easy to use and reliable. So that's also what this bike delivers.
Fantastic. Creating a performance bike that is easier to live with and easier to work on gets a huge thumbs up from me. And then in true German engineering style, there's really neat and innovative solutions used throughout this bike, such as at the bottom of the fork legs, we've got this little bumper so that when you take the front wheel out, it protects the paintwork and protects the carbon fibre. Down by the bottom bracket, there's a specially moulded section so that you can place the power meter magnet on the inside of the frame to keep it all neat and tidy. And then every single bolt used throughout this bike, made by Canyon, is manufactured by a family-run German company. Every single bolt uses an extra deep T25, and in order to adjust those bolts, well, you've got this. There's a T25 placed on the inside of the through-axle lever. Simple, but brilliant. But wait, there's still more, because the headset bearings and headset design in general have been taken to the absolute next level. Something which Canyon are calling a hermetically sealed headset. So essentially, Canyon have beefed up the sealing on this headset, and they say it will pretty much fend off any pressure washer. We've got upgraded hybrid ceramic bearings in here, constructed from stainless steel. And during testing of these stainless steel ceramic hybrid bearings, compared to your typical bearings, well, Canyon found when they're subjected to salt water, typically, you would find that they lasted between 12 hours or so before rust started to form. However, on these new headset bearings, well, the test centre called Canyon up and said, well, it's been over 5 days. How much longer do you want to keep the test going for? Essentially, what it means is you're going to spend more time riding your bike rather than servicing it. So again, that's a thumbs up from me. But there's more stuff still. We've got a new seat post design, which is adjusted in a slightly different way, and then has a neat little fixing on the back so that you could fit a light or a number holder. And Canyon have alluded to the fact there could be more solutions to use that mounting in the future. The likes of the Alpecin-Deceuninck team, the Canyon SRAM team, and the Movistar team have really pushed Canyon to make this bike lighter and faster, which Canyon have, although the weight saving on this bike is only 40 grams lighter than the previous one. But hopefully by now we can all appreciate that aerodynamics are more important than weight. And Canyon saying they're testing at 45 kilometers an hour, the new tube shapes and the new handlebar saves on average 15 watts. Something else which I am particularly a fan of is how Canyon have been really open about the bikes that they've tested this new generation Aeroad against. Understandably, in their testing, the new Aeroad came out on top. But typically, we see brands keeping this a closely guarded secret. So Canyon have put this new bike up against, in the wind tunnel, the SL8, the S5, and the previous generation Aero 2. Now, at first glance, I think most people could be forgiven for assuming that this new bike is pretty much the same as the previous generation because its overall silhouette is fairly similar. But something that I'm particularly excited about is the new handlebar. Now, standard, this bike comes with the classic shape drop, but this one has something new called the Aero drops. They have a flared design, an increased reach, and in their narrowest setting, they're just 350 millimeters wide at the lever hoods for maximal aero gains. And the development of this new handlebar has been a massive project for Canyon, which has run in parallel with the development of the new frame and the fork. So I'm keen to find out more, and to do that, I'm going to speak to Niels, the person behind the development of the handlebar. Okay, Niels, talk us through the new handlebar and what it means for riders and how it differs from the old one.
Yes. So basically the main difference is our PACE technology, which we now introduce with this new cockpit. PACE stands for Performance Adaptive Cockpit Ecosystem. And what it means is that a rider can easily adjust his or her handlebar to their personal preference.
Okay, so I know one of the key features is that the ends of the handlebars are now interchangeable. So this is what I believe you're calling the Aero drop, is that right?
Yes, correctly.
So how does that differ from, I guess, the classic drop?
Yeah, so the main idea behind it is to enable the rider to go into a more aerodynamic position, like for lead out, let's say, for example. And the main difference is in the STI, in the hood's position, you have a more narrow handlebar, and you can go up to 400, so you still have the adjustment range.
Okay.
And then we also added some additional reach in the drop bar so that you go a little bit more stretched, a little bit deeper in aero. And that, if you fit it well on the bike, can save you up to 14 watts.
Well, that's significant, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, you might be thinking that changing the ends of your handlebars would be a massive pain due to the integrated brake hoses. But no, the hoses are routed underneath the bar tape and not through the center of the bar drops themselves, which means they can be replaced quickly and easily should you wish. Perhaps the coolest part though is that Canyon have brought the gear groove over from their Grail gravel bike. It's a way of mounting not just a head unit to the bike, but also structural components too, like bespoke aero bars. Now, earlier on, Lucas explained how making the bike even more durable and even easier to live with was really on the wish list for the pro team mechanics. And a lot of hard work goes into achieving that inside here in the test lab. So, the first area we get to in the test lab is where the static testing is done. So we've got this bike on the jig here, and this is where a single load is applied to the bike in lots of different ways, and then they're carefully measuring the deflection of the frame. So this area isn't about repeating different stresses, it's all about single loads here, and then getting tolerances just right on the frame. And then over here, we've got the 3D surface scanner. Now this is a real mega bit of kit, 100,000 euros worth, I'm told, but I've been allowed to have a go. So this is for scanning items to make sure that the physical part matches up with the CAD model. And I'm doing my absolute best to scan it. But a real cool bit of kit, and I'm told that to scan and 3D scan an entire frame takes around 30 minutes. And then, as I said, it means you can get a CAD model that's hopefully matching up with a finished part. So let's continue our tour to the dynamic testing area. Right, inside here is kind of what I envisaged when I was told I was going to come to see the test lab at Canyon HQ. Loads of exciting stuff going on. So everything in here is being conducted, well, it's seeing a dynamic test. So that's repeated forces and stresses applied over and over and over and over and over to certain areas of the bike. Clearly here, testing the bottom bracket. If we work our way round, we can see all sorts of different machines testing different bikes and different forces through it. So this one here, looking at the force applied to the fork and the different stresses of how the bike is moving. And when you see it like this, you think it looks really violent. And you think, well, every single bike is subjected and tested to this stuff. Like, look at the flex in all of the different areas. It's kind of mind-blowing to think this amount of flex is considered normal in some cases. Tucked away in the corner here is a really interesting testing machine, and one that I've searched out because it's testing out the new Handlebar. Look at this, it's going absolutely insane. So I found out 80 kilograms of force is being applied not only down, but also vertically back up through the handlebar. And then if I look over here at the screen, this is a relatively new test sequence and cycle that's just started. So it's only been going for 17 minutes, and it's got 5 hours and 44 minutes remaining. So far, it's done 3,090 cycles out of 65,000. So a lot of hard work to go. What is interesting here is that not only are they testing parts for fatigue, in some tests, they're also testing them to the point of failure. So it's all about striking that balance between making a part strong and reliable, but also optimizing it for performance. And that's exactly what's going on. This room houses the CT scanner, or X-ray machine, and it's actually in use right now. If we look up on the screen, we can see a video stream of the bike that's inside, and we can also see the X-ray image that the machine is generating. This is really helpful here for them to develop and test all different prototypes that they're developing and working on, and you can see whether the inside volume is as expected. It also allows them to highlight if there's any voids or faults with the item, and then it could be cut open for further analysis. And then over here, we've got some other images as well, highlighting the scanning images and the parts themselves. So we take a closer look at this. From the outside, all looks normal, no stress to worry about. But when you CT scan this, they're able to highlight that the inside isn't how it's intended to be. So we can see the carbon is all shifted and isn't in the correct place, and that's going to lead to some areas that are maybe weaker and some areas that are stronger than as it's meant to be intended. Now, without cutting this open or CT scanning it, you have absolutely no way of knowing that. So, real high-tech bit of kit. Now, all of the handlebars and forks from the factory are CT scanned, and there's 5 more of these machines at the factory. All the frames and stuff are produced, whereas this one is focused on prototypes.
This latest 4th gen Aero is available across both the CFR and CF SLX platforms. Both have different build specs and use a different carbon fibre and a different carbon fibre construction process, but share identical geometry. The lightest is this bad boy, the CFR with Dura Ace, 7.07 kilograms and 9,999 euros. The cheapest, however, is the CF SLX 7, built up with SRAM rival. It weighs 8.06 kilograms and costs just 4,199 euros.
So that is everything you need to know to be up to speed with the latest Canyon Aeroad. Please do let me know your thoughts on the bike in the comments section down below. And let's be totally clear, this isn't me or Canyon saying that you need to always ride a top spec race bike, because you don't. And Canyon make loads of different bikes for loads of different riders and riding styles. But I, for one, love seeing this kind of tech and seeing how it evolves. Right, my time at Canyon Megabase has drawn to a close. The great news is, though, I've been told this new bike is now mine. See you later.